Hello, and welcome to Gardening with the Gardeners, a podcast where we discuss our favorite plants, gardens, landscape design, and all things horticulture, with a touch of our crazy homestead lifestyle thrown in.
I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Boone Gardner, a horticulturalist, landscape designer, and fourth-generation owner-operator of Boone Gardner Landscape.
And I'm Hope Gardner, Matt's wife, a horticulturalist with our local county extension office, as well as a landscape designer with a family business. And together, we make up Gardening with the Gardeners. So welcome back to episode number 6, and we're going to talk about putting your garden to bed today. We've had some nice cold temperatures, and I think fall is here, so let's start cleaning up, getting ready for winter.
It is the time, for sure. We're busy doing landscape fall cleanups and putting our clients' gardens to bed, and sometimes we're the last ones to get our garden to bed, but we're so busy.
But that's okay, because now's the time. So let's talk about, what's the first thing that we want to do. And I know that...
Did you say what episode this is?
I did. I said it was episode number 6.
I can't believe we're already on episode 6.
I can't either. Time just flies when you're having fun.
Is there anything else we need to talk about with the farm before we get going? Or anything? I can't think of anything.
Well, we did have fall break last week, so we weren't really here. That leads us to a very special episode just down the road that we can't wait to talk about later. But
yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think really it's just now started to dig dahlias, starting to do a few things to really get ready. We moved all of the tropicals down in a protected area, so yeah.
And I think your next episode, you want to do kind of focus on dahlias and putting those away. And just
definitely.
One of your
I
favorite
love
things.
my dahlias, and this is the time that everybody that grows dahlias are, rushing around trying to get everything dug. And not just dahlias, but of course, if you have elephant ears, cannas, any of the bananas, gladiolas, there's a lot of things, not just the dahlias that we're going to be digging up and kind of putting to bed. But yeah.
So, putting your garden to bed, fall cleanups, fall cleanup preparation.
So, like I was getting ready to say, we've already kind of talked about, but this is a great time to go ahead and do a soil test.
If you haven't done one, or if you're having trouble like with certain areas of something growing or performing, or
definitely so. I mean, you think about it. Our plants have had the whole entire season to grow and absorb nutrients for the soil. So once they have quit growing, it's a good time to maybe go ahead and take that soil test, see how much they have, used out of the soil, see what that soil test says, get a very good reading on what your phosphorus, your potassium, all those micronutrients are, and then just be ready and prepared for next spring when it's time to start planting all over again.
And especially in like vegetable beds or areas where you're putting in intensive feeders.
Yes.
Like your annual displays or whatever, or annual vegetable beds.
Well, there's a lot of vegetables that are very heavy feeders.
Absolutely.
And you really have to, and that's another reason why they really recommend crop rotation, which kind of leads us to another point is, making sure that, if you don't do it in the spring, make sure that you do kind of a layout of where you plant
Make
what.
good notes of your...
Yes, because you want to make sure and move those heavy feeders to an area that you put in after a light feeder. Mm-hmm. So you're rotating those crops around. You're really doing some good soil amendment, making sure that you're not putting the same family of crops in the same spot.
Well, because that's also a great way for disease prevention and IPM, integrated pest management,
Exactly.
is rotating those crops out and not planting the same thing in the same place over and over and over to where those diseases, bacteria, and
even the bugs.
Fungus can, bugs, fungal areas and whatever, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, just being aware of kind of where you plant this year so you can, over the winter months when it's cold and, you're home, just wanting it to be spring, looking through all those seed catalogs that we get in, you can start doing a layout of where things were last year and where you want to put things for this next year.
I cannot tell you how many mornings when it's frosty and cold outside and I come downstairs and, or you join me downstairs, but you're already down there with your little map of your garden and mapping out things for the next year, your dahlias or whatever else.
I know. That's one of my favorite things to do, I have to admit.
She's obsessive. She has binders and
I do. I have a binder for everything. I keep all of my layouts from year to year.
But it's really handy because we do. I mean, I kind of teased you about it, but it's just like when I do a design for somebody, you know where things are. You're able to go back and look at that and refer to it, and it's really helpful. So
Definitely so.
It's really nice.
And
to
then
say,
when I know that things work well together, maybe I just like circle it or highlight it, thinking, I want to be able to do this another time because it worked very well. Or if
Exactly.
something doesn't work, put a big old X through that because,
Yeah. And don't try it again or move it or do
helps
something.
you learn to be a better gardener.
It really does. Yeah, notes really make a big difference. And right in ties in what we're talking about. So once you've have your little, if you haven't done your drawing, your map of what your your present layout is, go ahead and especially your vegetable beds, you want to clean those out really well. And you want to get rid of all that old plant material, old detritus, all that stuff.
Yeah, don't leave it laying on the soil because, like we just mentioned, bugs can harbor in
there,
that,
disease
diseases. So clear all that vegetable debris out of the gardens. It's a great time to go ahead and put maybe a layer of mulch on top or compost, but get all that out. If you have anything that has a disease on it, don't put it in the compost pile.
Put it in a plastic bag and
Throw it away. Send it to the trash.
And then if you the stuff that's just normal, rotted plant parts, you can put in your compost pile.
Definitely. And if you don't have a compost pile, think about getting one started.
It's super easy.
Don't make it harder than it needs to be.
Don't overthink it.
And of course, you can always find lots and lots of information on, how to construct a compost bin, how to layer your compost, making sure that you turn it or aerate it. So, yeah.
If it's a vegetable garden or whatever, or your ornamental landscape, which is what you mostly focus on. We're going through and cutting back those perennials that have already been hit by the frost, trimming things that need to be trimmed, kind of just, again, cleaning up the leaf mold and different things out of the beds. Now,
Definitely.
can. I mean, sometimes you can leave.
Well, and there's kind of a little rule of thumb that I like to use when I'm talking about my, my perennials that are going to get hit by a frost, is that when it gets hit by a frost, if it lays down, cut it down. If it remains standing,
Perfect.
Let it stand. Things like hostas, when they get hit by the frost, they just turn to mush. Well, you don't want to leave that mush harboring more moisture. Mm-hmm. It can cause more diseases.
It can cause crown rot of the perennial plant itself.
Exactly. That's a big one. So if you go ahead and cut all of those back, then you don't really have to worry about that. And then you really want to leave things like your echinaceas, things that have seed heads that'll stand up. Not only, just it's easier for you, but the birds.
I love leaving them up for wildlife.
Yes,
and the birds love them. They appreciate them. And they're actually, a lot of those perennials can be, those seed heads and seed features can be kind of
seasonal interest.
Ornamental, yeah, an ornamental interest. And they're neat coming, like poking out of a snowbank or whatever. They're kind of add a lot of interest and stuff. And then once they get really tired, you can trim them back and whatnot. But like you're saying, it's those kind of woodier type things you can leave up a little longer.
Exactly. And again, add those things that you're cutting back, add them to the compost pile. Just
Absolutely.
It's free, amazing, soil amendment.
Material for next time.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And even if we'll do another episode on just composting because it's a whole science.
Oh yeah.
And you can, there's a lot of science behind it, and it can get complicated, but it doesn't have. It can be literally as simple as you just throwing your stuff in a little piled area, and then rotating occasionally, getting some water on it. Again, we'll talk about all the features of how to do it right. And there's
layer
a right,
your green with your brown.
There's a right way to do it, of course. But even if you just forget about it, and a couple of years later and come back, you probably will have something sitting there. So
that if you leave it sitting there, it will naturally break down. It's going to take a lot longer.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot longer if
right.
if you're not adding the active.
And you do want to make sure that your compost heats up enough that it does kill any weed seeds, any pathogens, diseases, anything like that. So you have to make sure that compost gets hot enough. If you come back the next year and you have tomatoes growing out of your compost, it didn't get hot enough.
Or if you still have big chunks and pieces and stuff,
yes.
and it's not broken down to nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some people that will actually use like an old screen as a kind of a sieve
mm-hmm.
and sift it through, and all that little stuff that falls through the screen. Use that. Anything else, put it back in and let it compost again a little bit more.
And I think you already said this, but adding mulch or compost to your beds,
yes.
Both your vegetable beds, your annual beds, if you've cleaned all that material out and there's kind of bare soil, you're like, well, why do I need to mulch it? Because there's no plants there. But you're actually, that way you're protecting the soil from erosion. It helps keep weed seeds from germinating
yes.
and kind of,
Well, you just think about it. I mean, it's like putting a blanket on top of, your bed in the wintertime.
Yeah, and it just
You want
makes
to
it
stay warm and toasty, and so you want to keep any of those perennials that are under there. It also helps with heaving. So if you do have
Oh, for
perennials,
sure.
you don't want them to heave out of the soil from that constant, freezing, thawing, freezing, thawing. It can just kind of work those roots up out, and then it'll freeze and die. So make sure that you mulch it, keep it in the ground. Yeah.
And most of our clients are on a spring mulch schedule, and you'll see some companies mulch twice a year or even sometimes more, and it's really not a good practice.
Depending on how
How
thick
thick
the
you,
layer
well, how
is,
thick it is.
mulching twice a year in the spring and in the fall,
Okay, so this is where we need to differentiate because I was going to
and
say,
that's okay.
for landscape, for an ornamental landscape, those time you've already put in 2 to 3 inches of mulch down. So in the fall, what we usually do is kind of clean those beds up, fluff that existing mulch because it usually has not had time to break down enough. Now, if there's bare soil or if we have areas that are, exposed, then of course I come in and lightly mulch it. And I think that's what you're getting at with maybe twice a year.
You want to make sure that you continue to have that,
Yes.
2 to 4 inches. 2 to 4 inches is what is recommended. So if you mulch in the spring early enough, and then by fall, if it is not in that 2 to 4 inch range, you want to mulch again. A lot of times people forget about is continuing to water.
If we're still in like a dry pattern or whatever.
And we're lucky enough that we've gotten a little bit of rain this week and a little bit of last week.
It's been cooler and
It's been a lot cooler. But you have to remember that if your plants go into winter in a
drought state,
or dehydrated state, yes, they're going to have more winter damage.
especially your broadleaf evergreens.
Yes. That's what happened to us in 2023
Yeah,
when we
was
had
that?
those really bad, 22 or 23 when we
When
had
they
those
that
really
temperature
bad.
drop, and yeah, it was so dry, and the laurels and other broadleaf evergreens hadn't stored up enough water in that thick cuticle part of the leaf, and so they just gets hit even harder. Yeah,
So, yes, and I think we've talked about in one of our other podcasts, we've talked about how, the winter winds are what pull the moisture out of those broadleaf evergreens.
desiccate them.
And so you really have to be careful. You want to make sure, even though it's getting cooler, even though we've had a little bit of rain, if we are still in that drought state, you really want to continue watering, especially those broadleaf evergreens. Once your deciduous trees have dropped their leaves, it's not as necessary. But remember, those broadleaf evergreens, they hold on to those leaves. And so you really want to make sure that they still get enough water, that they're going to be fully hydrated before winter hits.
And even some of your conifers, especially if you got
Yeah.
a newly planted conifer of
It's
some
definitely
sort.
anything newly planted.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But it helps any of those evergreens from being dried out too much in the winter winds.
Yeah, especially here in Kentucky because we try to push the envelope a little bit with some of our broadleafs because we love our broadleaf evergreens, or rhododendrons, azaleas, magnolias, a lot of those guys.
Boxwoods, laurels,
A lot of boxwoods and laurels too.
hollies.
But really, they would be a little bit happier if it was a little warmer in our winter months. And now that we're getting so cold and then we've got these really strong winds, it really does a number on them.
Obviously, for your lawn, you want to get your leaves raked and mown off of that. I'm a big fan of, me, I'm a lazy gardener. So,
Well,
I mean,
I'm not going to admit to that, but
Oh, I don't know. We do always do what, we look for a path of least resistance, put it that way, and then work with it instead of,
yes.
and plus, the greenie in me, we've never wanted to be like big on bagging leaves. And I've never done it. I always just mulch them with a mower, or we're lucky. We're on a property of a farm, so we can blow them. But even then, I still just mulch them up. And we have trees everywhere, leaves everywhere. And we've never bagged a leaf ever.
No, we haven't. And in fact, sometimes I wish we did, just simply so I can move leaves from point A on the farm to point B on the farm.
Well, or yeah, we can put them so we can.
but I don't
But I
want to
mean
ever take the
bag
leaves
them and
off.
throw them away. I think that's just
No.
such a waste. But if you can chop them up and actually, if you can mulch them with mulch. Most mowers nowadays mulch so well that they'll mulch that leaf mold right into your lawn, and that actually becomes fertilizer for next year. If there's too much, you can always kind of blow it off into like other areas. Maybe you have some wooded areas like we have. We blow it down in there and things. And we even
And if
use
it's a light layer of leaves on your landscape beds are not a terrible thing.
not at all. So like our wooded garden, our some of our shade garden areas that are quite large, we don't we'll mulch them. But then we'll leave those leaves on there and have that as a light mulch, and it breaks down and adds a nice organic matter to the soil.
So later, when it's closer to spring, we'll talk about my stumpery. But my stumpery is kind
It's
of a
all
shade.
mulched with leaves in
Yes,
it. Yeah.
it
It's worked
was.
great.
It was absolutely fantastic, and all of my shade perennials in that area of our gardens looked fantastic, and it was because we left the leaves over top of
Exactly.
that bed. So that was really important. If you leave leaves on your lawn, a lot of times it will kill the grass underneath. So
It
you want to
will.
be very, very careful and don't let them sit on a grass area
For
or
too
lawn
long.
area.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so here's another thing that I think is important, and most people never really think about. But after you take all of the annuals out of your pots, it is the best time to go ahead before it gets really cold to clean and disinfect any old pots, and especially your hand tools. Go ahead and disinfect any of your pruning shears, your loppers. It's a great time to sharpen any of your shovels. People don't think about sharpening their shovel, and I mean, your guys, of course, they have to sharpen several times a year because they're using them so much.
Oh, yeah, all the
But if
time.
you keep a nice sharp edge on your shovel, it's going to cut through that sod and it makes it so much easier to
Or for
plant.
dividing or anything.
Yes.
And yeah, as far as clean pots and your tools and stuff, use a nice like hard wire brush, scrape it off real good, and like you're saying, then maybe use a disinfectant. I mean nowadays,
10% or 10% bleach water is what they, are recommending.
and that's great. And then even like you've done where you're pruning your dahlias so much or other type things, you're using hand shears. You'll just use those Clorox wipes, and they make
I
it
keep
super
'em.
easy. I mean,
Yeah, I keep them with me all times when I'm in the
and
garden
that way you're
now.
not having to deal with the solution and spilling it everywhere. You're just wiping it down.
Well, I have to say, I'm not a tidy gardener. I'm a messy gardener. I know,
yes, I always
laugh.
have to go in behind her and clean up.
Well, but not only that, but I will, if I had a bleach solution, I'd have bleach all over me.
Yes, along with all your piles for me to clean up.
Exactly. That's how I leave little gifts for you so
Oh,
that you know how
lovely.
much I
Yes.
worked in the garden that day.
You do like to, you do like to show your,
Yes.
yeah.
I show my hard work. Okay. If you have young trees, and especially fruit trees, it's very good this first year to go ahead and wrap those trunks to prevent them from sun scald. A lot of people don't realize, maples are very, very susceptible to this. But just like we talked about with perennials in the beds, when the sun hits a tree bark, because a lot of times at night that freezes and then the sun comes out and it thaws. And then at night it freezes. And then in the day when the sun comes out, it thaws. Well, that constant freezing and thawing can actually crack the bark. And so you want to prevent sun scald. And so if you wrap those young trunks of a tree, it can help insulate that and kind of moderate those temperatures so that you don't have such a strong fluctuation. The key is in the spring, you do want to take those wraps off.
Yes.
But you want to go at least up to the first branch or two from the base, from ground level up the trunk. And that's best to help prevent that from, scalding.
And
new
what you're
trees.
suggesting is for mostly is like whips, like some very small
Well,
trees.
very
like,
small.
Like like you said, the newly grown fruit trees and things like that you're getting in. One that I really have to do, especially with the newly planted trees in like a lot of our neighborhoods, because the deer population has gotten so bad.
I think the deer population is worse in the neighborhoods than it is out here on the farm.
It absolutely is. There's no pressure, no hunting pressure, and so they run amok, and I always call them their lawn ornaments in like Hunting Creek and Indian Hills and all that.
Yeah, those bigger, well-established neighborhoods.
So it's you particularly want to have some sort of cage or the wire mesh type thing. Ones are nice because they allow air and things like that to pass through those trees from the deer rut season, the rubbing and all that, because they'll do more damage even than sun scald a lot of times.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. Yes.
And then on some of your smaller plants, you may have to have it towards the bottom. We're lucky we have not had too much trouble with this, but some people really do. Rabbits and different little critters and things can go over and gnaw on the trunks. And
So talking about things that happen on the farm, I noticed that in our area that we keep our ducks, it's also the area that I've planted my fruit trees. And I think that's kind of a French method where they usually put ducks in with fruit trees because the ducks eat the bugs and then they fertilize the lawn around them. And I think I have one tree that the ducks have kind of nibbled on the bark.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
I
And
didn't either.
They've gotten. Plus, we were joking about because they. I know it works, and I know they use them in orchards and all kinds. Or grape, or not orchards, but also vineyards. They'll release them and have eat all the bugs and stuff. But I think they have so much room. Our little orchard space is so small. I think our pressure from the ducks is a little strong. And
Well, they've also moved into the goat pasture and up to the vegetable
but they
garden.
root around with their bills, and
are the funniest little
they
creatures
killed that
to
one
watch.
fruit tree so we had to actually put some gravel around them to help protect them.
I'm not sure that they did. I think I had that was the peach tree, and I think I had peach borers because I forgot to spray my.
You did find peach borers on that?
I think I did. Yes.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
Sorry.
I thought the deer. I keep saying deer. The ducks killed it.
Because you've got deer hunting on the brain.
Yes.
Okay, so we've kind of talked about lawns. Make sure that you mow one last time to get all the leaves and everything off, get it ready for spring. If you have any areas that are
bare patch
bare
or-
spots, this is actually still a good time to overseed if you need to in certain areas. They will actually reseed better in cooler temperatures than in the heat, and you don't have to water as much either,
No, you don't. A lot of times you can almost put it down and forget about it sometimes.
which is nice.
It is nice.
Yes. So on the subject of lawns, fall is also a good time to apply fall weed control.
Like a weed and feed.
Yes. There's a lot of products on the market. Just go to a very reputable store that sells lawn care products and talk to them about the best type that you need. There are so many on the market that it's really hard to kind of address individual needs.
And I'm laughing because you're always trying to get me to. Well, I don't think well, not necessarily. It's a double-edged sword, but we don't really do that in our yard, so we let it kind of.
Well, because I have honeybees, I don't
Yeah.
want to do a lot of it.
So
I
we
like.
don't do any of
I
that.
don't mind the clover and I don't mind the dandelions because those are the first things that are available nectar sources for your
for
bees.
the bees, exactly.
So I understand that some people want that beautiful golf course lawn, but please also think about our little pollinators and our honeybees when it comes to early spring. And, as soon as it hits 70, they're out flying around and they need to have a nectar source.
Well, it's nice because to be on the farm, I always joke, I'm like, as long as it's green, I can mow it, and I don't care what it is. And
Exactly. Exactly. Another area that I think is really good for fall to think about, and most people, we see them a lot on commercial, not maybe as much on residential, but planting some cool season annuals.
Oh, yeah.
They're so cute little pansy faces.
yeah, and there's great things you can do for the fall and moving into kind of, or sometimes depending on the weather, they'll go fall on into the holidays, and so it's kind of funny. You'll have your fall display of pansies and your ornamental kales and cabbages and all those cool little things that kind of you think of with like pumpkins and hay bales and things like that. But then a lot of times they'll still if we have a mild early winter, they'll keep going for a long time.
Well, and we have actually planted pansies in the fall. They've done great. They've rooted in. They kind of, and I don't want to say melt out, but, they get hit by the winter when it's really, really cold. But then in spring, because
come
those
right
roots
back.
are established, they jump right back out
and did great.
and did fantastic. So I actually got 2 seasons out of my pansies. I got fall, and then I didn't have to replant them in the spring.
Absolutely.
And then sometimes when I'm pulling them out to plant my summer annuals, I kind of feel guilty because they still look good.
Yes.
So if you get them in early enough, get them rooted in, those pansies can last.
So we're talking about putting the garden to bed, but it's really a good time to plant bulbs as well, and to get a jump start.
It's a great time. This is when you're supposed to plant a lot of those early spring blooming
Bloomers.
bulbs. So all of your daffodils,
Narcissus.
your tulips, your grape hyacinths, just the regular hyacinths. There's so many that you plant in the fall. You can probably see them in box stores where they have them in the bags. Go ahead and grab them. And there's some that are out there that are really neat that people don't think about. And I think that they're kind of scared because they don't know a lot about them. But that fritillaria.
Fritillaria is great.
It's so fantastic. And I don't think people use it enough. A lot of your alliums.
Well, alliums.
Crocus too are great to plant. And that's another one that if you plant, that is an early bloomer for the honeybees. The honeybees love crocus.
It's really, it's fun because those will bloom. They bloom really early for us sometimes, and then you're right. The bees are so excited to have it to be out there on them. So
Well, because they can actually bloom in the snow because they're a cool season. Exactly. So that's what is great. And so, yeah, definitely go ahead, grab some bulbs while you're out, and get some spring bulbs planted. So, do we want to do a quick checklist on like an overview of everything that we talked about?
Sure. It would be great to do a checklist.
So, our fall garden checklist:
Number 1,
soil testing,
number 2,
clean up the vegetable garden,
number 3, be sure and make notes where the vegetables were growing for crop rotation, that little design diagram we were talking about.
yes. Number 4 would be removing herbaceous plant material,
Dead plant material.
dead plants, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then adding that dead plant material to your compost pile.
That's number 5.
And then number 6.
Add mulch compost to beds.
And number 7 is
As needed.
As needed, yes.
Yeah,
number
don't over mulch.
Number 7 is mow lawns one last time.
8, water trees and shrubs if still needed and the weather's not cooperating.
Number 9 would be mow or rake those leaves off of your lawn.
Number 10, clean out and scrub containers.
And 11 is be sure to sharpen all your tools and clean them well.
Mm-hmm. And it just makes it so much easier because come spring, they're ready to go.
Ready to go.
12, wrap the trunks of young trees.
And 13 is install fencing to prevent animal damage.
14, mow your lawn one last time.
Number 15 is overseed the lawn on bare patches.
16, apply weed control.
Number 17 is be sure to plant some cool season annuals around for bright colors.
And 18, plant your spring flowering bulbs.
So there we have it. I think that is pretty much our fall garden checklist.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if you can go out and do all of these things, it'll definitely get you ready for the next season.
Absolutely. It'd be a huge, huge start.
And don't forget to spend lots of time on those seed catalogs, circling and highlighting all the great material you want to add to the garden next year. It's my favorite winter pastime.
I'm sure we'll be talking about that more too.
Of course. Well, thank you for listening to episode number 6, Putting the Garden to Bed. This is Gardening with the Gardeners. Thanks so much.
Be sure and get those questions emailed to us as we start to grow the base and people start listening. If you have questions or gardening questions, please email those to GWTG.
That's Gardening with the Gardeners.
Yeah, GWTG@boonegardner.com. And that'll be a fun way, a new segment that we can start adding as we get things going.
And follow and subscribe if you like to listen to it so you get notifications on when our next episode is out.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. Please subscribe or follow us to get new episode updates. And please drop a rating or review. If you have a question, either gardening, landscape, or horticulturally related, you can email us at gwtg@boonegardner.com. Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners.